for him right away so he can go to bed. Is that okay with you all that we kind of stick around to be mindful? So Mickey Madoda Dube is an international award-winning commercials, film, TV, and reality producer, director, writer. His filmography spans. Can you all hear me in this? Yeah. Okay. I just want to, because I can't hear it well.
Can you mute for a moment until we finish?
Oh, yeah, can you? Okay. Thank you, brother. That's much better. Thank you. Okay. His filmography spans the social to the commercial, moving comfortably across formats and genres, whether it is feature films, series, dramas, documentaries, commercials, and reality shows. His hand can be as conceptual as it can be emotional, a very strong performance director, but also as comfortable, technically skilled at deploying VFX seamlessly. Mickey has been at ease filming in many diverse environments, including across more than half the African continent, Hong Kong, London, Nunavut in the Arctic, Moscow, Los Angeles, Kiev, New York, France, etc. A Fulbright scholar of the USC School of Cinematic Arts in Los Angeles, Mickey's life and career have been blessed with many firsts, venturing into uncharted territory, not something foreign to him, blessed with having filmed a whole range of remarkable individuals across the world. Again, let us welcome, please, Mickey Dube. And so again, just to ensure that we have time with him and you all can get your questions in, and I guess I can move around the room with the mic so that we'll be able to, okay, or a mic. Does anyone have questions for the filmmaker to start? If not, I have an opening question. Oh, someone in the back there, all the way near the, Jordan, he's right near the, the checkout counter, the counter.
Greetings, brother. Thank you for this wonderful film. Let's give him another round of applause. I guess when we witness the history, the contemporary history of South Africa, we can see that Sobukwe has been fully vindicated when we have the ANC in alliance with the pro-apartheid party. I think that speaks very loudly and obviously. That's something that Sobukwe never, ever would have done. I really don't have a specific question, but perhaps where can we recover that type of principled radical politics that we once had in South Africa with people like Steve Biko, people like Sobukwe, both of whom warned that if we think ending apartheid just means replacing the white rulers with black rulers, we'll end up having the same situation, only this time apartheid will be administered by fellow Africans. And then just a quick point. As I'm watching this film, I said, I wish Sobukwe would have been able to escape the country and come back at the head of a liberation army, like Mugabe, like Agostinho Neto, or like Samora Machel. Thank you once again, brother.
Are there other questions? There's a sister up here. No.
Good evening, all. Can you talk just a bit, Brother Dube, about the making of the movie? What entailed the making of the movie? How long it took to actually produce it? What its cost was, and how you were funded?
A little bit of a delay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Greetings, everybody, from Azania, South
Africa, depending what name you believe in using. I think that the jury is still out in the future in terms of visioning a different leadership, a new leadership that will revert to the dream, that will find a way of reasserting itself. It has been a difficult journey, full of pitfalls, full of unfinished business. I think we always used to say, as South Africans, that we will be different to other countries in the continent. When we have freedom, we will show the rest of the continent how different we are. And it hasn't been the case. It's been a rather painful kind of rerouting to what happened in the rest of the continent. Tough pill to swallow. But you well know, all the various countries in the continent have had those leaders who were serious about the promise of true freedom. They've all been taken out. So I guess the likes of Sobukwe, Steve Biko, Chris Hani, and others face the same grim reality. This is, but I don't think we should let go of the dream. History can repeat itself, but history also, as we all know, is always in a, we grasp at what we believe, but also we must also grasp at the possibility of a different outcome. I don't think we should always believe that the same will happen in the future, whether near or distant. We should always believe, like, this is my. I'm not the type that will let go. I still believe that it's possible, and I think filmmakers have a role of always keeping hope alive. Creatives should always keep hope alive. And I'm one of those. I don't believe it's over. I believe that a different outcome is near. And I know that, it may sound like a pipe dream, but you can see traces, small little bits of smoke that suggests that, some fires are brewing that could possibly, deliver a different outcome to what we've nearly accepted. And so, Sobukwe was asked many times to leave the country so that he could come back. Like the brother who made that first comment, so that he could come back and hopefully, fight and win decisively. But Sophie refused. he was not the type of leader. He was not, he believed there is no way he would let others go and fight while he stays back. Some people have said, it was his fault, because leaders should always be protected. Leaders should always, not be exposed to the fire. But he believed different. He believed, he would not let others do what he himself would not do first. I guess he was trying to emulate Shaka, who, Shaka had this belief that he doesn't want anyone in front of him. He doesn't want anyone behind him who's not dying to be in front of him. Wow. And so Sobukwe was like that. Sobukwe, believed that he should face the fire first, or at least at the same time as everybody else. And every action that he has been part of is one where he was in the forefront of it. And so I know the brother would have wished that he could have come to the US, and he really was offered. He had the opportunity, the resources were there and the opportunities were there and plans were there. He refused to do it. So that was not going to happen, at least in my understanding of what he represented and what he believed leaders should stand for. And in terms of the making of the film, it was a tough journey. It was not easy. The truth of the matter is, in terms of the resources, we were gonna take like a year and a half to make the film, but because the resources were not enough, it took longer. It wasn't just the resources in terms of finances, it was also the resources in terms of being able to get enough material to deliver the film that you've seen. As we say in the film, we really just couldn't get the archive. It was literally, I had to spend, an extra year of just doing research, looking for visual materials that we could use, and we still could not get enough, because literally Sobukwe had been erased, literally erased. This man who was filmed 24/7, watched 24/7 for many years, you literally could find, up until today, nothing, not even what he sounded like. So we can only imagine what he sounded like through the things that he wrote, through his values, through his beliefs. And sometimes I think, and I think it's very important to be able to get those things that can give us a sense of who the person is. But sometimes their actions, their values, the ideas, things that you can find about what we believe or what we hear from others, sometimes that can be more powerful, and I think the material sometimes misleads us and fools us into a sense of a false comfort. Because I think when we can imagine, I think that's more powerful. That's me. Yes, it's good to have something you can hold on to, but sometimes that can be limiting, depending on how you use it. And for me as a filmmaker, not being able to find the actual physical material, as archive, as audio, make me dig deeper in I don't know if I would have been able to tell the same film. I'm not saying, it would have been a weaker or stronger film. It would have been different if I found the archive, but not finding the archive gave me the opportunity to tell the film that I've told, and I think I had to reach deeper. We didn't have enough money to do the kinds of reenactments and dramatizations, but I think it made me find the tools to be able to tell that story that I probably would not have used had I had the archive. So it was a tough journey financially and in terms of resources, but once we started, the people who were behind and in front of the camera, they gave their all. Because once they got exposed, I guess this is why the authorities, the establishment, the boards were so terrified of Sobukwe, because even in death, when we were making that film, it's almost as if his spirit came alive, because the crew and the cast, it was another level of operation that they occupied. It was like a different gear. And I'll tell you a little story which nobody, and I put it in the film. It's in the film where the actor who plays Sobukwe is standing, next to this man with the trumpet under his armpit. That was not planned. I was not part of the shoot. This was documentary, even though it looked like dramatizations, because it was the actor. The actor had so personified Sobukwe that we were shooting on a street where Sobukwe used to always walk from his home when he was in Kimberley, where he had been banished, where he used to walk from there to his office, when he was an attorney. And when we were shooting, we used that, we were filming him walking, and this old man came running out of his yard and ran up to the actor and literally stopped him and said, "Where have you been all this time?" And it was such, people broke down on set because they couldn't believe that the actor had so personified even his walk, his voice, the slur in his voice, the tempo of his, of his movements, all of those things that this old man thought Sobukwe was alive, and so so I think that to me it really captured those element that revealed why he could move people so much that when they were first arrested and taken, because he was taken to 3 prisons before he was finally taken to Robben Island. When he was first put into the first prison on the 21st of March 1960, and they put them into the same cells as like hardcore criminals. By the time they removed him, in fact, they removed him because he literally changed the whole cell. And they were not mistreated like everybody else who comes into prison. And they changed them. He politicized them so much that when the warders came in, it was almost like a near mutiny that happened. And they realized, we have to remove. So they removed him, and they sent him to Central, which is in Pretoria, which is a bigger prison. They had to build a special prison for Sobukwe and his other guys, where they could house them on their own without mixing them with other prisoners. So that was the force of the man that up until today, the erasure continues because of the fear of what he represented. There was a period in 2015, in fact, we're going to have 10 years, 10-year anniversary of what was called Fees Must Fall, some of you may have known about student uprising in 2015. And those students, we all thought, oh, well, yes, I made a film and it predated the student uprising. And during the uprising, they asked for the film. We showed the film several times. And those students spoke Sobukwe, they spoke Biko, they spoke Chrisani. So it was amazing optimism, hope that yes, there may have been an attempt to erase him, but actually it hasn't fully happened, and that the young people have rediscovered Sobukwe, and for me, that's hope that the future is probably brighter than we think.
Thank you so much, Mickey. Are there other questions? There's several other questions. Okay, please. And then I think we have. Wait, can you hold your hands up again? I just want to see. Okay, so we have one here, and then two more, and then we're going to move on so that we ensure that we have time for Mama Nancy Wright as well. And we know that you have to get to bed so you can have an early morning, but we still have 3 questions left. And if we could ask you to be brief with your questions, please. Oh, and Mickey, as much as this is a riveting conversation to hear this information, if we could ask you to also be a little brief with the answers, because we do have to keep moving with the time. Our time is running down very quickly here. So
very quickly, you mentioned the name of Mandela only once in the film. Can you explain that, please?
It was difficult to hear the question.
So the question was that you mentioned Mandela's name only once in the film. Could you explain why that was?
I mentioned Mandela's name once in the film. Can I explain why that was? Was that the question?
That's correct. Why was it only once that he was mentioned? His name was mentioned.
I was not even aware that I don't think it was conscious to mention the name once, but this was the film about Sobukwe. You know what I mean? And I believe that he can stand on his own. And be as powerful without necessarily trying to prop him up using Mandela's name. I don't. For me, I don't. It was not a deliberate thing to mention Mandela once. It's a. I don't know if people are aware that Mandela died on December 5, which is the day on which Sobukwe was born. That's why we're doing this centennial, right? And some people, speak about both of them in the same breath. I mean, it's a choice you can make to do that. I know Mandela, did play his role. In terms of the struggle against apartheid. I always, I personally try not to compare the two of them because I think they are different paths. And I also believe that the Mandela that has been presented to the world is the one that was presented deliberately in that manner. Because the Mandela who went to prison is not the Mandela who was presented post-prison.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mickey. Oh, go ahead. Go
the
right.
Mandela, sorry?
Keep going. Go right ahead. Briefly. My handlers are telling me briefly. I know. We have 2 other questions.
All right.
So there were
the Mandela who went to prison, he was arrested because he had picked up a gun. So that is erased. he was arrested because he had picked up a gun. You know, and so, you know, and the full story, I think, needs to be told. You know, and you know, and in fact, after March 21, 1960, Mandela and Sobukwe were in one prison very briefly, very briefly, in Pretoria Central, when they removed Sobukwe and took him to Pretoria Central. Remember that Mandela who only went to Robben Island a year after Sobukwe was there. It's because he became radicalized and, you know, kind of stopped, you know, turning the other cheek. So, you know, so it was not deliberate to speak about him once, but I believe Sobukwe can stand on his own and still deliver the punch that he delivers.
That's great. Thank you, Mickey. Next question, and then there's,
Hi there.
yeah, if we could ask you to, we'll take, if you could ask your question, and then if we could have the next person also ask their question, so that we can keep moving. Go right ahead.
Unity, I'm Freedom, and it's so beautiful to meet you. The movie was amazing, spectacular, and just outrageously wonderful, and I thank you for doing it. There's so many questions, but I'm going to just do this one. How do we move forward? How would you like us to move forward? I know that there is the Robert Sobukwe Museum and Cultural Center, or Cultural Community Center there in South Africa. And we know because our beloved Mama Nomvoyo, who is here in America with us, she is the sister who keeps reminding us of Sobukwe. And we're looking for a children's book. We want more interaction, more information. How can we continue to let the people know about him? I know that he was very much in contact with many people here in America based on your movie, and I'm so happy to know that. So we want to know how we can continue the struggle to be a force for the struggle against whatever is going on in South Africa in this time.
And then if we could have the next question asked, and then if you could respond to both of them, Mickey.
Thank you for the movie. Is this movie available on DVD? And if not now, when will it be? That's my question. When will it be publicly available?
Did you hear the questions? Okay. I believe you're muted still.
Is it those two questions, or is there,
Yes.
did you say 2 or 3 questions?
Those two questions.
Oh, those two. Okay. Maybe I'll start with the last one. The movie was available on DVD, and obviously, you know, we live in a time when DVDs have ceased to exist. And we did sell, you know, several copies of film. We also, you know, were very wary of piracy because, look, it's a difficult one because I know I fought with my fellow filmmakers that we made the film with. I believe that the film should be pirated so that it could reach as many people as possible. You know, like they were very upset with me for believing that. I mean, it's because I wanted, you know, for this message to reach as many people as possible. I didn't say that people should not buy the film or pay for the film. That you know, I didn't make the film so that we would make money. If I don't know if I'm expressing this well. I know it's very important to make films and have them, make enough money for you to be able to make the next one. I understand. But somehow for me, I think as we were making the film, the idea of the film, being profitable kind of took a backseat. And it was more about ensuring that the film reaches as many people as possible, however that happens. Yes, if it can happen at the same time as making, money to be able to make the next project, then yes, that's fine. But if it's not possible, how do we make sure it still reaches as many people as possible? During Christmas Fall, we showed the film a lot because the students were asking for it, and we showed it for free. Because they obviously they'd seen the film earlier, and they wanted to be reminded that they wanted to be inspired. So we showed the film for free without charging. So it is available if you need it. We have it on Vimeo, but obviously we give a link for people to view it. And sometimes we let people download it when we trust that they will not move it. I've taken a backseat on making the film freely available, but yes, if you want it for cash, you can have it. It's just about making the arrangement. And how do you continue to participate in South Africa? I mean, if this known Voyo, who you talked about, is a door that you could use, because we interact. But I believe that the history of what's happened with African Americans and what's happened to us as South Africans is very similar. Many common experiences that we have gone through, and I think we have not taken advantage of that in being able to forge common, given that we have a common journey, that's shaped by many similar circumstances. I believe we've not taken advantage of those things that kind of make us one, in order that we can forge a different future together. And I think it's obviously there's been efforts to do it, and some have been relatively successful, but I don't think we've tried enough to do it. I think the future I think should and I think we've focused more on the political elements of it rather than on the rest of the package, which goes beyond, because politics are temporary. For me, I believe that if the relationship is based solely on the political, it loses stamina along the way, and I think there needs to be deeper. Sobukwe believes that humans come first, and I think that to me is the basis of all interactions. It's the human factor, and once that becomes successful, the rest follows. That's just my belief in that sense of the humanity of all of us being a common thread that we can use to weave a different rope that is stronger to pull us through.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for that. I want to bring in our other esteemed panelists. Mama Nancy Wright has proudly spent her entire adult lifetime in Pan-Africanist organizations, struggling for freedom and justice. She has served as an organizer for the All African People's Revolutionary Party for over 50 years. Yes, absolutely. A party that, in the tradition of Sobukwe, Nkrumah, Toure, Cabral, and Sankara, tirelessly struggles for the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. And Mama Nancy, I'd like to kind of pose part of the question that was asked of Mickey about not only where do we go from here with Sobukwe, but where do we go from here in terms of our resistance and our struggle for liberation?
Thank you very much for that question, and I appreciate the introduction. I just do want to take a moment to thank the organizers, WPFW, all of the organizations that co-sponsored this event, and the filmmaker, Comrade Dube, for this excellent presentation. It's really, really important that we know our history. And it's very important that we know and understand the people in our history who have made sacrifices, because Sobukwe's sacrifice was not just for the sake of a sacrifice. Sobukwe fully understood that in order for the mission to be accomplished, that those of us who are left behind have a great responsibility. And regrettably, it was very easy to understand the oppression of settler colonialism in Azania, but it's more difficult to recognize neocolonialism because the faces now look just like me. But the oppression has not changed, and the people's suffering has not lessened at all. So we have a huge responsibility. The other thing is that it's not this problem is not restricted to any single part of the world. It's not just the southern tip of Africa. All of Africa, almost all of Africa is colonized still under neocolonialism. We don't control Africa. Africa is controlled by the same external forces that control it during direct colonialism. But again, it's much more subtle now. It's the control takes place through financial institutions. It takes place through extractivism, where the raw materials are being taken out of Africa and enriching other parts of the world. And it takes place through land grabbing. And this is an important point that Sobukwe understood very clearly and articulated very clearly the importance of land. Okay, land is the basis of all of our existence as a people. And the day that was compromised was a defeat. And this is unfortunately why the struggle still has to take place. So what can we do? What do we need to do? This, I think, is an example of one thing that we can do. The point is, whatever you can do, you should be doing. If you're a filmmaker, then it's your responsibility to dig like this, like Brother Dube did, and find the truth about the real heroic contributions in our history. It's our obligation to not compromise and look for big paydays by going to Hollywood, but to find information that's going to help to inspire us and lead us forward. It's going to give us a roadmap to where we need to go. No matter what it is that you do, if you're a teacher, recognize that education in this country, and in fact, the whole capitalist world, is under attack. So if you teach the truth to children now, you can be fired from schools. Principals and teachers are being fired for teaching the truth about our history. And there's a reason that they're trying to hide it, because as long as we don't know our history, then we're not struggling to change things. As long as we don't understand the source of our oppression, which is capitalism and imperialism and colonialism, then we're not struggling against it. So they don't want us to know that. They don't want us to know that. And our obligation is to learn. Our obligation is not to depend on somebody to teach us. We can pick up books, we can sit down together, we can talk, we can read. My organization, All African People's Revolutionary Party, has ongoing study circles. I've been in the process of studying for all of the over 5 decades that I've been in this organization. And I still have things to learn. And I still learn from new people who come in. And I'm still inspired by stories like these. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You answered.
Are
Are there other questions out there? Other questions? There's one in the back, okay. And again, if we just ask you to please be brief with the question so that we can get in as much time with both Brother Dubé and Mama Nancy as we can.
Okay, my question is more directed to the filmmaker, Brother Dubé, which is, this was the story of an unsung hero. I wanted to know if he could mention any other unsung heroes or sheroes, including the women that marched in 1959 to get rid of the passes as well.
Did you hear that, Brother Dubé? Did you hear the question? Okay.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, there are quite a lot of the list is quite long. One of the interviewees in the film is Mama Loretta Zogo. She's passed on, but she's, unfortunately during the 50s and 60s, you know yourselves in the US, there were not many females who were out in the forefront. Didn't mean that they didn't participate, but somehow, the environment or the politics of the time and the gender politics of the time, they were not out there in the front. But her husband was one of the people who were in the executive of the Pan-Africanist Congress in Bobo. He was in the publicity office, and she played huge role. In fact, there's a film that's being made about her contribution. There was also the wife of Robert Sobukwe. It's a pity that she has always not agreed to be interviewed. I sat with her and begged her, and she's got a beautiful soul. She's very, very nice. She makes, she's got a sense of humor, that she very beautifully, politely declined. She told me the stories of their lives, but she would not be interviewed. But she is also one of the heroes as well. Steve Biko, but there were others who were there. David Sibeko, some of you may know David Sibeko because he lived in New York. He represented the PAC in exile. There was Rampela, some of you may know the name, who was Steve Biko as well. She was in the executive as well. There's Masalaba, who was at some point the vice president of the Black Consciousness Movement when Steve Biko was banished in the late 70s. So there's a whole range of them. Winnie Mandela, whose story is also not told very well. The negative aspects are pushed more forward than the positives, which far outweigh, some of the things that, we use to blemish her contribution, which was immense. A proper film still needs to be made on her. I know Hollywood did make a film which we found very difficult to watch. I don't know if you were able to watch it. So there are many other heroes who are unsung. There's another one of the PAC who was called, the Lion of the South, who was unrelenting. He was arrested so many times, brutalized, but never gave up right up to his death. So there's many different ones.
Thank you for that. Any last question? Any last question? We have two more. Okay, these are one here and one there. Okay, great. Good.
I'm gonna get. I'll grab yours.
First, I want to say thank you very much to the brother for making this magnificent recording of history that we otherwise would not have known about, and for WPFW and all of those at Coke Bookstore, everyone involved in supporting this event tonight. How can we support you? You're so humble, and I'm sure that this will go out into the community, but we want you to be able to have the support to produce more. So how can we do that?
And then if we could ask the last question, and then if you could answer both of them, Brother Dubé, and then Mama Nancy, if you could give some final closing remarks, please.
Hello, my question is for Mama Nancy. So the film makes clear that Sobukwe was in alignment with figures such as Nkrumah and Sekou Touré, and envisioning and wanting to create a United States of Africa. Can Mama Nancy kind of give insight where that movement of revolutionary Pan-Africanism is today and examples of where we can see it on the continent?
Do you want?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
The last question was for Mama Nancy. The first question was, how can you be supported? How can your efforts continue to be supported? Your filmmaking efforts. Exactly. Your Cash App yourself.
I would prefer to not just speak for myself. I would say any support you can lend to any filmmaker who wants to tell a different narrative to the ones that are always pushed out, narratives that can inspire us to want to participate in changing the reality of our future into a much more positive, much more uplifting one. I would not want to just push myself, because I know even in my country and across the continent and the US, there's many different filmmakers who do want to tell those narratives that push us to areas where I think we can grow much further. So please, anyone in your vicinity that is trying to tell a different story, even if it's not a film, it may be somebody who's doing a podcast, it may be somebody who's trying to write a book, or is on radio. You have Brother Netflix and the radio station that is trying to tell a different story, and I think we all deserve that support. So please, and I think if you can find others who, like yourself, want to support, in a sense, it's much stronger, because then more people can tell these stories. And so I'd like to thank you all for making the time to come and watch this film, and also Brother Netfa, and the organization and the radio station and the sisters, on behalf of us here in South Africa as well. Thank you very much, and we we wish to do more together. And once we've started this linking of hands, I think we should find a way of continuing. And with the sister who's in Washington DC, she's currently in South Africa at the moment, And, we've been talking and meeting, and, I think we need to continue these relationships. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We should say rest well to you. Thank you, Tom.
And then, the sister back there, could you just restate your question, please, to Mama Nancy here?
So my question is about where the movement of revolutionary Pan-Africanism is today and examples of where we can see it on the continent, since it was such an emphasis in the film about Sobukwe being in alignment with Nkrumah and Sekou Touré. So.
Okay, thank you. Our enemy is really busy, and I think the film illustrated how the most revolutionary among us that are working their hardest are the most actively persecuted. They're arrested, just tortured, murdered, and replaced with neocolonial leaders. But it seems like colonialism is invincible because it's been so successful for so long, and it's gone what I think of as kind of underground, where again it's very difficult to recognize, and it's so deeply entrenched. And by that I mean, when I look at my iPhone or my automobile or the oil, the gasoline that it takes to fuel my automobile, then I'm an active participant in the theft of these resources from our people and other people in other parts of the world. And I don't say that to say that you should stop driving your car, throw out your phone or your laptop, because we live in a world that, our lives are deeply entwined in the consumption of these things. But it's the acceptance that makes us guilty. It's the acceptance of it without struggling against it. So where's Pan-Africanism today? Pan-Africanism is alive and well. There may not be some of the names that you recognize, and I think it's important that we understand that history is made by the masses, and we're not always going to know the names of people. We're not always going to know the great contributions of people. There are sometimes extraordinary contributions and great sacrifice, and those are sometimes the names that we know. But despite its entrenchment, colonialism, and our division and our oppression, those things are not invincible. If there's not an opportunity to steal land, and if there's not resources to plunder and without labor to exploit, capitalism will die, and it will take colonialism down with it, and imperialism as well. That's our job, and that's what the Pan-African movement and Pan-African objective is working toward actively on the African continent. Our party, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, is in total alignment with the struggle for Pan-Africanism, as was articulated by Sobukwe, is African unity, as was described in the film, to the extent that we are struggling to bring all revolutionary parties on the continent of Africa together under the coordination of the All African Committee for Political Coordination. And that process will advance the revolutionary African states toward true liberation, true economic, political, and military control of our land and our resources and our labor for the development of Africa and African people. These things are not happening because we want them to happen or because we wish. They happen because we're willing to build a mass revolutionary party, and to join and to be active and not look for somebody else to bring freedom to us, but recognize it as our responsibility. That's our job. And if we betray that mission, then we're betraying our future, our children, our grandchildren. We're turning our backs on them. So in the spirit of Harriet Tubman, of all of the revolutionaries that were mentioned, and those who are unnamed, this is our responsibility. And this is my challenge to you, is to see it as your job to pick up where Sobukwe left off.
Thank you so much, Mama Nancy. We don't have any time, I'm sorry, man. We're down on time, but we thank you for that, and you're absolutely right. We want to continue the conversation informally in the space, but we do have to close this portion. We want, yes, huh? Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm going to thank the sponsors. Absolutely. We cannot go without thanking the sponsors. The UNIA ACL RC 2020 Division 330. Let's give it up. The Malcolm X Grassroots Movement DC Chapter. Pan-African Community Action. Black Alliance for Peace DC. Citywide Alliance. All African People's Revolutionary Party. Thank you so much. Positive Productions Inc. The Africa World Now Project. Sankofa Books. And WPFW. And thank you all. You all, the people. Thank you very much. And thank you, Brother Dube. Rest well. Thank you, Mama Nancy. And we appreciate you.
And if I can say one last word before I go. Africa is primary for us, but all oppression all over the world is also our business. And when we witness the slaughter of the Palestinian people right now, that's our business too. Right? When we sit on this land here in the Western Hemisphere, just like Azania, this is a settler colony. There are indigenous people to this land. And all of this is part of our struggle, and all of this has to be part of our consciousness. So I just wanted to say that before we close.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think so.